New York Giant extraordinaire, legendary NFL player. Can't thank him enough for joining us, and we probably can't ask him enough questions in the time we get him. Our main man, our legend, Leonard Marshall, joins the show, man.
Yeah.
Leonard,
hey, good morning, guys.
Good morning. It's an honor.
Appreciate you, man. Hey, it's an honor.
Fellas.
Honor to have you.
Nice to meet you all.
You
Nice
too,
to meet
brother. You too.
as well.
Hey, Leonard, we had a guy, a huge fan of you, who comes on our show every other day, Steve Kim, who had to run, but he's a huge fan. He wanted to thank you personally for the hit you laid on Joe Montana. So, thank you.
You can tell Steve I'm very sorry about this morning. I got tied up with work, but you know what? I sincerely appreciate that.
Nah, no doubt, brother, no doubt. So what do you got going on nowadays, man? What's your daily routine going? You got business? You got anything you're doing for anybody?
Oh, man, I'm doing too much. I just signed a deal with a group called Tunnel to Towers. You probably heard of Tunnel to Towers. It's in support of Steven Siller and his family. It's directed and run by his brother, Frank Siller, here in New York. Tunnel to Towers provides money and assistance to families that are first responders and those that are suffered a severe loss in 9/11. We're in the process of creating a campaign with ShopRite grocery stores in New Jersey to sell bags to bag gun violence and curb gun violence in urban areas and throughout the city. So, I'm looking forward to that deal. Currently, I work with a team at UBS, probably the number 2 largest bank in the world. And I'm having a good time. I'm getting acclimated. I'm a trusted advisor at UBS. I'm going through the process of getting my Series 65 and 55 to work as a full registered representative, registered investment advisor. I transitioned from Rockefeller Capital Management, where I worked for 2 years. And I just created an NFL license business with a group here in New York that are also doing Major League Baseball. So I'm busy.
Man, it's incredible what you're doing. Like, you're having true impact, and not only you're giving back to the everyday folks, you're giving back to first responders, you're getting your financial literacy, knowledge behind, in terms of UBS, and getting your, working on getting that RIA. It's like every area of life you're finding ways to have impact. So shout out to you.
Hey, Leonard, let me ask you something. Go ahead. No, I was going to ask you, you talk about these things. Like, I talked to Eddie George and some other NFL guys that before they got into the coaching world, they were talking about after their career. Number one is like health and body, right? A lot of us, especially when you're a lineman and you're heavy and you get out and you lose all this weight, like Mark Schlereth and a lot of these other guys have done when they get into the media. The other ones talk financial literacy. How important are those two things? Because a lot of we've seen too many young folks die after their careers because of health. And then we see a lot of financial illiteracy going on. And a lot of guys after their NFL career is over are bankrupt or broke or what have you. You're touching on both of those areas. How important is that?
It's very important. It's extremely important to manage those two things and manage them well. The third is to manage your family and the affairs of your family. So the biggest thing for me when I left football was I wanted to be able to hit the ground running. So I went back to school and got my education while playing for the Giants, to be honest with you. I got my undergrad degree in 91 after our second Super Bowl against the Bills from Fairleigh Dickinson University. Then I went back to work on myself at Seton Hall University and worked on my MBA there while teaching at Seton Hall University in the Stillman School of Business. So it's always been a work in progress with me. That's the one thing that I could tell young players. Always be willing to invest in yourself. Always be willing to continue to grow. Never stop growing. Never stop growing your concerns and things that are near and dear to your heart. And the third thing is to manage that health. Because without health, there is no wealth.
Ooh,
whatever you saved, whatever you made, whatever you trying to accomplish, without that health, brother, you're not going to get anywhere.
Man.
No doubt.
You are a preacher right now. I got one more question on that before we kind of dive into like all your football greatness. Who was your mentors? Like, because a lot of players I talk to, they have struggles with that transition from football. A lot of people they identify themselves as a football player, and once that's gone, it's hard for them to figure out life without it. It seems like you're someone who had a plan even while you were still playing and winning championships, where you were still thinking about life after the game. I guess, where did you get that knowledge? Was there a mentor or a head coach or someone who helped guide you?
Man, I'm going to be honest with you. I pay homage to a lot of people. I think one of the guys that really did it for me early on was the general manager of the Giants, George Young. I think George Young took a liking to me and surrounded me with good people that could nurture, guide, and help me to transition into becoming the player I became. He introduced me to a gentleman by the name of Joe Goldberg back in the day, who took a group of young black players that were on the New York Giants and infiltrated them with a veteran team of New York Giants and said, you know what, we're going to be one of the first teams to resourcefully show players how to transition and then give them a platform, and by which they can use their platform for football to help them transition into life. And between Joe Goldberg, Merrill Best, Bill Parcells, Bill Belichick, Warren Colbert, Craig Polite, my psychologist, a number of different people, man, touched my life early on. And I'm proud of who they helped to build and become, being a dad of two, having a son that's an attorney, who graduated from Georgetown University, the top 3% of his class. I'm proud of that. I'm proud of my daughter, who's now working in the fitness industry in New York City, and doing her thing on her terms. And those are things that should be important to players, and they've been important to me. I mean, I can, if I'm talking to a young guy now, think about what I'm saying, because as long as you're green, you'll continue to grow. It's when you think you're ripe and know it all, you'll begin to rot.
So, hey, Leonard, that's
quote of the day right there.
You're actually proving my point from a yesterday conversation about respect. So I appreciate you coming on here and proving all the Draymond Greens out there wrong. But anyway, let me ask you something, Leonard. Let's go right into this. I got to ask you, you mentioned some legends, Belichick and Parcells, obviously. And I got to ask you, that defense you had with Belichick on that side of the ball, shutting down some great Buffalo Bill teams and some other teams, obviously, that will help you win some Super Bowls. How important were guys like Belichick, who's still coaching, by the way, now in college, so he's coaching youngsters, and Parcells, obviously. You had two legends. How important was that in what you do? Because I think leaders create more leaders, not more followers. And everything you just explained, your daughter's success, everyone under you's success, is clearly from a leadership standpoint, and you've created some great leaders yourself. So how important is that, being those two guys, under those two guys?
I'm going to grab something from Nick Saban, guys. Nick Saban talks about this all day long. If you watch his videos on what do you want to call it, Instagram or TikTok or any one of these things, he talks about the theory of nothingness. He talks about the theory of nothingness and what that means. And Belichick and Parcells put that in perspective in my heart as a player early on in my career. If you wake up every day, what do you promise? Nothing. You go out there and rest on your laurels and think you're going to get better, but if you don't put it in, you can't expect it out to get it out. So at the end of the day, when you come home, you look at yourself in the mirror and say, what did I accomplish? If you didn't put it in and you didn't give your best, what do you got? You got nothing. You go to the bank that afternoon and you check into the bank and say, you know what? What did I do and what did I put into being the best version of myself I can be? And if you didn't do that, then who do you have to blame? Nobody but yourself, because you really invested nothing. So please be looking to improve your life is what, most of these guys have taught me and taught several of those guys that were on these great teams I played on. Belichick will go down, there's no doubt, as one of the greatest and the brightest minds in football. A friend of mine is writing a book with him right now with Tom Brady, a gentleman by the name of Gary Myers, who has become a real dear and near friend to me. And we talk about this all the time. We talk about the greatness of a Belichick, the greatness of a Parcells. They're trees. They're trees of coaches that have coached underneath them and have gone on and become successful. So like that, most of their players have become that way. There's just a couple of knuckleheads along the way that fall off the wagon. But, I can tell you this. there are more guys on the success side than there are on the failure side.
Man, that's huge, man. That's some real good knowledge as well. I want to ask you, staying on the topic of Bill Belichick, there's always, it's been talk as far as like who deserves more credit, Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, you know, when it comes to the Patriots' success. But I want to ask you, you know, someone who was coached directly by Belichick, you know, him in his younger years, like what really defined Belichick's greatness? What was it about his coaching style? What was it about him that made him different than other coaches?
His ability to connect with players. He takes the things that you do the best and he exploits them. In my case, the Giants drafted a guy who was a tweener in myself, a guy who could play defensive tackle, who could play defensive end, who could defend the run, who could rush the passer. And he just needed to have a system and a group of guys around him that could actually play, and he helped them play to a certain level. Man, he exploited me big time. And I love everything we did together.
Hey, Leonard, I got to ask you, man. I go down and I got to meet LT a couple times now at a couple of events, and got to speak and got to sit down with him. And as a youngster, he was my idol. You, him, Big Bert, all you guys that were dominant up front for so long. I looked at that team and I was like, man, how good or different was LT when you looked at him and what he did? His ability to drop, ability to pass rush, ability to do all the things he did at that time. I thought, later on there was other guys that came along that emulated his style, but I don't know if there's ever been an LT. He's like a Deion Sanders on the edge at corner. I thought he was a transcending player. Was that team just so loaded that he got to expose folks because of how good you guys were at other spots, or was he just that damn good?
It's a combination thereof. I mean, Lawrence was an exceptional player. You know, the things that he and I did together were amazing. I mean, Bill Belichick designed the right side of our defense with 3 Hall of Famers, by the way, Harry Carson, myself, and he. And you know, the weak side of most quarterbacks, they had to deal with the 3 of us. And Lawrence was an exceptional player, man. I've never seen a guy that could do the things that he could do in the course of a ball game with the same intensity and the same speed and endurance. As the years went on, you know, things you kind of saw a change in him, but you know, you never got his worst in a game. You always got the best he could give you, whether he was in tune to it or not. And he played at a high level, guys. He played at a high level. He elevated everybody's game on our team.
Man, that's special. Let me ask you this. You mentioned, you know, you won 2 Super Bowls during your time with the Giants. Does one of those Super Bowls mean a little bit more to you? You know, is it a specific memory or anything that comes from, you know, either one of those wins that just sticks out more, or any reason that one of those might mean a little bit more to you?
The 86 team was special. The 86 team was a mixture of guys from the 70s, guys from the 80s, and a couple of guys that we drafted in 86. We drafted a hell of a group of guys in 86 guys. We drafted 5 guys that ended up playing in the game on defense for us. Eric Dorsey, Eric Howard, Mark Collins, Pepper Johnson, and Greg Lasker. And all those guys contributed to our success that year. But 1990 was a different group of guys, because 90% of our pass rush was held out a camp in training camp. Lawrence and I held out the whole training camp. We didn't come back to join the team until the last week of preseason football. And everybody doubted whether or not we could do it again. You know, we win 10 games with Phil Simms, and then we lose Phil, and then we bring the quarterback, Hostetler, and Jeff takes us to the Super Bowl. You know, we give him everything we could give him on defense as a football team, but he takes us to the Super Bowl. So we beat the best team in football, a team that 49ers. We proved that we belong to play with them, and we were better than them. And whether they want to realize it or not, we were better than them. We were more physical, more tenacious, and more relentless in terms of our play. So the 90 team is very special, just as well as the 86 team. If I was to pick my druthers, I'd probably say 86 because of the mixture. But the 90 team was very resilient. The 90 team was very resilient, guys.